Hundreds of journalists from many of the top American media outlets are calling on Western news agencies to start using charged language to characterize Israel's response with words like genocide and ethnic cleansing. The letter signed by journalists from, among others, the Washington Post, Bloomberg, multiple journalists from the LA Times, who the Times has just pulled off of covering the story because of this. The Boston Globe, more overtly liberal media like MSNBC, Huffington Post, Daily Beast, blame Israel for the deaths of journalists caught in the war zone and states in part, quote, "We also should hold Western newsrooms accountable for dehumanizing rhetoric that has served to justify ethnic cleansing of Palestinians." I had a debate this week with one of the people who signed that. Nomiki, where do you come down on this one?
I mean, there are rules in journalism, right? There's ethics in journalism. Whether or not everybody follows them is another question. If this is a question about how coverage is made because of language, you know, why...
Do you think words like genocide and ethnic cleansing should be part of the descriptions of Israel's response?
If I read the letter, that is not what comes across in the letter. So, and you even quoted part of it. There's an opinionated slant to the letter, you know, not to forget that if you are a journalist signing onto a letter, that is a form of advocacy. So, you know, this is a real journalism question. Do I agree that, I mean, genocide's a loaded word. I think a lot of people would say this is genocide. I think that the Netanyahu government officials, not Israel itself, has vocally stated their hatred for Hamas and for the Palestinian people and wanting to obliterate them from the planet. I think there's an argument to be made
You're
there.
conflating two things, getting rid of Hamas versus getting rid of the Palestinian people. Where did Israel, in any of their conversation, they want to get rid of the entire Palestinian people? If that was the goal, Nomiki, we talked about this. They could have done it in 1 week.
And they pulled out of Gaza and the West Bank in 2005, right? They forcibly removed their own people to go back to Israel and to leave those apart. And so the thing that really bothers me about this ethnic cleansing point, genocide point, is that the population has exploded in Gaza from 2 million to 5 million people since 1990. If you were actually doing a genocide, then you wouldn't actually think that.
10,000 people have died. I mean, I think we're talking about the situation right now in which the defense minister, multiple people in the Netanyahu administration have said blatantly racist, anti-Palestinian words. Again, not the Israeli people, and I don't think it's actually the state of Israel's policy.
But I actually agree with you on this sense. I think if you're going to be a journalist in that area where information is critical, I don't even want journalists coming out and saying, praising Israel and you know, flouting them up. It should be down the middle. It should be it shouldn't have opinion for people.
But we're talking about here in the United States. I mean, these are American journalists. I get it. You want to debate about what Al Jazeera should be doing, and I read Al Jazeera all the time. I take it with, you know, a whole shaker of salt every time I read it. But, you know, I got to understand what people in the region are thinking. I got to understand what the Arab perspective is. You got to do that. This is a group of Western journalists who are demanding that loaded language be more part of the conversation. And these are the same people who didn't want them to use the word terrorists to describe Hamas.
So, yeah. All people have an opinion, and I do think that journalism is not actually just straight down the middle, but we are a Western civilization, and we are in favor of Western values. I think that women's rights is better than no women's rights, and I think that that's okay to carry into the newsroom. I guess the problem with the loaded language point is that it's actually pushing a narrative that's A, false, and anti-Western. I mean, by, you know, colonialism, like that type of narrative is, I don't know, anti-Western.
And again, it's about the intent. The language, it matters. And this maybe is the lawyer in me. And we have 3 of the 4 of us are lawyers here.
Yeah. My name means law.
But the UN definition of genocide, acts committed with the intent to destroy in whole or in part a national, ethnic, racial, or religious group. Israel isn't trying to destroy a national, ethnic, or racial group. They are trying to make sure that Hamas doesn't do this again. You can say they go too far. You can criticize them for the way they're doing it. But when it comes to the intent, there's just no evidence. So the notion that, oh, the media should start using this kind of loaded language is insane. And by the way, kudos to the LA Times for saying, and they're just making it a 3-month. Well, these people aren't going to be able to cover this story for 3 months. I mean, I can't imagine them ever being allowed to cover this story for a mainstream media publication here, but we shall see. Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find NewsNation on your cable provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.